My mat cover is got piles and piles of small dropout nanoparticles that are really tiny, balls of biofilm and hard carbon nodes that are sharp on the edges, and rods in different morphologies of the nanotech. So I scooped up some of the bigger ones, especially the rods, which I'm focused on now because this is all the mobility issues I've been having. And I see how it cripples people in later life. So I'm going to scan some of these and show you, I'll scan them all, the bundles of fibers, rods, and nodes, and this is only the bigger ones. Well, the small ones there, there's just so many. I'm going to do a webcam shot of them to show you just how many, because it's bizarre. 2 weeks of accumulation with a lot of picking out of those brushed off nodes that I brush into a pile. Okay, so that's the fibers and rods, carbon fullerene rod. What do we got here? We've got a carbon node and the fiber cloth pad, screen, mesh, whatever you want to call it, that holds it all in the pockets, and the pockets or the tissue folds closed with this mesh over top of them full of biofilm. So as we move on here, there's a pile of the fibers with lots of carbon in it. There's a big slab of polymers that looks like it was part of a bigger morph, actually. We got some of these plant genome seed pods. This one, there's two. What's this piece here? There's another one, 3. Note the different shapes. This one's pointed as it morphs on the tips. This one is just starting to open up that way. This one not so much. Here's a big rod. Tissue fold clamp in it, where the tissue was molded into the building polymer node. This looks like it was at the core of a carbon fullerene and crystalline fiber network. Like the build motor that was generating these things. This is a chunk of biofilm polymer that is got some fading out ions from the formula, still glowing slightly in it. What's this black piece here? Where is it? There it is. Carbon polymer. This is one of those polymer rods. And all these bends in it are tissue folds where there's been shrinkage of the biofilm, making a shrink wrap. And these are the patterns in the skin. What do we got here? Well, there's another pod. plant genome seed pod. This one's got a lot of carbon in it, or on it, from the piece next door. But these were all scattered all over, so I don't think this was connected to it, though it could have been. There's fiber balls and carbon. There's some morphing polymer into the green nodes that it makes. Some hard polymer, and this looks like these were attached too. But when they split up like that, they're all breaking open and dropping the pieces, and several of them, I'm sure, are the same inside. Here's a bundle of fibers wrapping and twisting, covered with biofilm polymers. And this carbon, that's programmable carbon, because it's connecting to the polymers and it is using it as a building material. Wow, that's got some nodes and rod bases coming out of the core of this one, and the thin black fullerene. This is a long green rod. Note the twisting as it spirals. This is a big fiber pod. And I've had some big ones drop out. Like this. You see all the tentacles coming off the bottom there? And all these nodes had sprouted banding ties of fibers, I'm sure. This black thing on the left side, middle screen, and it looks like it's a breakup of the polymers, fibers, and carbon. I got another one here. That's got some big chunk of polymer beside it there. Note the creases, the lines in that. That would all be tissue folds. And this hard polymer would be locking it all in place. And look at that. In a 90-degree turn, it had a big thick rod attached there. And down at the bottom, it looks like a fish head at the mouth open. I don't know what would have been in there. It could have been anything. And right at the tail on the left, where it gets wider, note how the molded trenches in it from the tissue folds go off in another direction. So that's where I keep saying that it pulls on these points from all directions. They've got a spiral pull off the end, the flat band. You got one in a 90-degree up angle opposite at the bottom of that, and then there would have been a carbon rod inside that shooting out the end of it and connecting to more banding. I usually don't scope these big fluffy balls because there's so many of them that drop out. I've just seen this big black hard carbon fullerene rod. That's about, an inch and a half. I see other ones here sticking to the side of the scope too. Oh wow. I had half of what I picked up on the bottom of my arm here because my wrist had touched the piles or the desk, and all these pieces stuck to it, so this is going to go on a little longer because there's more pieces here, but only a couple more minutes while I do a quick scan of them. That's rope pulls. Note the spiral in the bottom one, the morphology to white, lesser spiral twisting in the top one, more unmorphed polymer biofilm. Lots of rods here. You can see the twists and bends in them again, loops pulling in all directions as it shrinks. This is a clamping node, multi-directional pull and locking in that from the molded creases in it. What's this? It's another fiber ball, carbon, and rods. So that's it, I guess, for this one. Let's stop on this, because this is just the stage before morphing into the copper and gold wires that I just showed in a video yesterday, I think it was, and posted. So done with this one.